are live. Countdown. Get all of our cams on. Super source. The super source is not showing up. We might need to go back and see about the settings. It's not showing over here. CHBL. Switcher. I need to.
Need to what?
I need to make sure that that IP address is correct.
No, you're inside the thing. The IP address is correct. This wouldn't show up if it wasn't.
Okay, well, it's just not there, so I don't know why it's black screened. 40 seconds.
Maybe these aren't set correctly. The boxes.
The box. Okay, yes, I need to fix the boxes. Yeah. 30 seconds. $15 seconds.
Yep.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, hey, and we're live.
Hey! With the wrong button. That's okay.
Give me some slack
Yeah,
here.
we're going to cut her some slack. Welcome to Get Up. I'm Chris. I am your host. This is our weekly live podcast where we talk about gear, we talk about products, we talk about techniques, and hang out, answer some questions, have a good time. We also hard open with no intro, so that's super fun. So there's that. Today, we're actually talking about a brand new launch that we just had at Profoto. So some might look at this and go, I've seen these before, but they're a little different. And let's talk about it. These are our new hard reflectors. So, let's go with the smaller ones because it's easier to handhold. So normally you're seeing something like this. This is the Zoom tube reflector. So there used to be another Zoom reflector before that wasn't as flat right here on the edges. It was more of a kind of a straight bell reflector. This is the Zoom tube reflector. With a silver finish, it's kind of got this kind of faceted inside, so it collects the light in different positions as you zoom it throughout the light. And these things are, they come standard with the Pro head. They're really, really good. They work on a lot of stuff, but ideally you would use these silver reflectors on a protruded head, such as a Pro head, or maybe a D4 head or a Q2 head, something with the flash tube is actually exposed, is protruded out of the front of the head, as opposed to like here with the D3, which is what we're going to be using today, as opposed to the D3, which is a flat front, so that flash tube is recessed into the head. It's recessed into the head for a few reasons. If you want to get into that, we can, but I think we've talked about it in the past, so if you want to know, ask me. If you don't care, perfect, we're going to keep moving on. So what we've released is now these a selection of the hard reflectors. We have a few hard reflectors that we did not add the white finish on the inside of, but some of the more popular ones we did, and the results were pretty good. So again, the insides of the Zoom 2 reflector now with a white finish. So what this is going to do, it's going to, first and foremost, they're the same size. It's the exact same reflector, same size. So the actual light quality coming out of both of these is going to be the same. So the hardness versus the softness is going to be the exact same. The size did not change. What did change is the reflections. So the white interior reflectors are going to bounce a lot more light around. It's going to spread the light out a little bit further. It's not going to make it any bigger, but it is going to spread the light out further. It's going to allow for more reflections. It's not as focused as a silver reflector is going to be. And what that's going to do is going to make the light a little easier to control. It's going to make the light easier to feather because you have more edges where the light's bouncing. And overall make a kind of, the word soft isn't the right word because again, it doesn't change the size of the modifier. But it adds a subtleness to the reflector that a silver reflector just doesn't have. Now, so that's not to disparage the silver finish of a reflector. They're quite beautiful. And, there's something about silver on certain skin tones that just has this sparkle to it that can't be beat. But this is a cool modifier. A second thing which makes it cooler, something that I pointed out with the silver reflector. So again, these silver reflectors are really designed for the protruded head stuff. That's not to say that it doesn't work on flat front lights. It absolutely does. It just doesn't gather light the exact same way that a protruded head was. These were designed for that. When we came up with the Magnum reflector, the telezoom, the original zoom reflectors, those are the heads we were using. So even our monolights at the time, like the compacts, those had protruded flash tubes. So all that stuff was designed around that. The D1 came out, we changed it up a little bit, and so they weren't as efficient. The cool thing about the white reflectors is they work beautifully with both flat and protruded flash head units. That's again because the way it gathers the light, the amount of reflections that are kind of happening inside of the reflector as opposed to kind of the silver reflector grabbing all that light and shooting out a focused beam. This allows the light to kind of bounce around there and make it a little more subtle. So that is what the white reflectors do. We're going to photograph them with them here in a second, but let's move into a second part of the launches that we had yesterday. And let's talk about grids.
Hey Chris, I'm going to adjust your mic because it seems like people are having some issues.
People are having issues with my microphone.
Yeah, they said it sounds like it's ambient room mic, so we've got something
Ambient
going
room
on
mic,
here.
really?
Do you mind just turning yours off for just a moment and popping it back on?
Me turn
Make
my
sure
mic
that,
off.
yeah, let's see if that receiver is.
Let's see. I'm going to mute for just a second. Check, 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 check. How about now?
Now it's clear. What are we thinking, people?
Well, I mean, it looks like we have levels jumping.
We
in the right
have
position.
levels.
It's the only
Looks
thing.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Are you scratching?
No, I mean, it might
Sure.
just be pointed down my neck. So I don't know. I apologize for the weird mic, guys.
Give me a thumbs up if it sounds better, y'all.
Oh, you mean them? Gotcha.
Mhm.
Cool. So I'm gonna move forward. So white grids. Let's talk about what you can expect from something like a white grid versus a traditional black grid. So for people who may not know, a grid is literally just to take light and focus it. Okay, it takes the light from here and it points it to whatever degree that you're getting on the tab. So like this is a 10-degree filter. This is for a grid. This is for things like the original Magnum reflector, the wide zoom reflector, the telezoom reflector. So the cool thing about having a black grid is it doesn't allow for reflections. Okay, black is an absorptive color. It doesn't let things bounce around. So what this does is going to allow the light to be really, really focused and keep spill down from happening around the scene. So you're getting just this tight light beam. A white grid, you would think that's a little counterintuitive, but let's dig into it a little bit more. So say you were in a field. Are you checking some more stuff?
Yeah, it's ambient in my craziness. Let's just see if we can figure
Pull it.
something out. Just keep on going.
Pull it up on your phone and listen to it and see what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Just you might have to walk outside so it doesn't
Feed.
yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Whatever. She's gonna check that. We're gonna talk about this. So if you were in a field, for example, with both of these grids, so you're in a place where there's no reflections, nothing bouncing off anywhere, and you put this grid on your flash head and pointed it at your subject and fired it, and then you put this grid on your light modifier and fired it at your subject, the light beam would be the exact same. The grid, the focus, is doing the exact same thing. It's pointing the light where you want it. Where this is cool is when you're in a studio situation like this, or you're in a place where there's some walls, some place where the light can reflect. Now, because the grid has reflective abilities as opposed to absorptive abilities, what's happening here is the light's going to be able to bounce off in different directions. And what that's going to allow for is a decrease in contrast. So generally, whenever you use a grid, you see an increase in contrast because it's taking that light, it's pointing it right where you want it, and it's not letting light fly all over the place. A white grid is going to point the light right where you want it, but allow the light to fly all over the place, giving you a little bit lower contrast on your images. Again, we're going to photograph with all of these, and you're going to see it. But yeah, that's what a white grid does. I think I've yapped enough about what these things do. Here, I'll just show you the other reflector really fast before we photograph. So here you have the original Magnum reflector with the silver hammered finish. Here is the white version, so you can see them side by side. It's apparent they're very different. Again, a much smoother, more subtle light out of this as opposed to the punch of this. The cool thing is now you're not getting the same stop output. You get about 2 stops more with this bad boy. With the white one, you are still actually gaining about a stop of light. So you are getting an increase in light output, It's just not quite as efficient as the silver. So there's that. And that's going to ring true for the zoom reflector and the telezoom. What do you think, Caitlin? What's happening?
We have major distortion from something.
Major distortion from something. Here, let's check. Let's see if that cleans that up a little bit. It looks like maybe one of our little levels were a little wild. Let's see if that's a little happier.
Give us a thumbs up if it's
Yeah, let us know.
helping.
Sometimes things go a little bit awry whenever you don't see it in the system, so.
To my ears, it sounds great, but then if I pull it up on YouTube, I'd hear exactly what you're talking about. It's like butterflies flying around.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We're butterflying.
Yeah.
Check. Okay, cool. I think that fixed it. So what I think we might have been clipping through another system that we have on the back end to try to decrease the contrast on the overall live, just to help with
Sounds
the
better.
images.
All
Yeah,
right.
to help with the images. So
Thanks for sticking with us,
Yeah,
y'all.
thanks for hanging
Sorry
out.
that happened.
we were just clipping. So
Yeah, we were
fixed it.
clipping away, fluttering like some butterflies.
Cool. So here is
Let's
the
do
telezooms again.
this.
The silver one here on this side actually this time, and then you have your white one here on this side. So with that being said, hopefully you got the information. I said maybe I need to go over it one more time.
Yes.
All right, let's clean this up because we had a little bit of a clipping issue. Let's make sure you understand what it is that we're talking about. So again, white reflector, silver reflector. Doing it from the zoom perspective. They are the same size light shading tools. But what is the difference? Why does a white finish matter? What does a white finish do? So your silver finish is really, really good at gathering light and shooting it out in a focused beam. It's really intense. It's really efficient. It's not forgiving. That being said, if you learn how to harness a silver reflector, they're beautiful. Same thing with like a silver umbrella. They have a punch and a crispness to them that is kind of unmatched. But that punch and crispness can be intimidating to people. So enter the white reflector. What the white reflector allows for is that same beam, but it also allows for secondary reflections inside of the modifier itself, giving a little bit more of a feathered look, a little bit more of a subtle look. It gives, again, because those secondary reflections allow light to kind of shoot all over the place, you're going to see a decrease in contrast. Contrast is generally the thing that scares people when it comes to hard light, not so much the actual hard light itself, that and shadow. So that's going to help with this. And also because those secondary reflections happen, you can now start to feather and use the edges of your white reflectors. So that's the beauty there. And then we talked briefly about grids. So we have the traditional black grid and we have the new white grid that is available for our what?
Someone wants to know if you have your Crocs in silver too.
No, I have my Crocs in red. I have my Crocs
But
in
you
red.
know, you get because you wear, white reflector. You're
Oh
yeah. See.
I guess I needed black Crocs too.
Oh no, you don't.
I'm glad you noticed my
No,
Crocs.
you don't.
So here's the problem. I was a Croc hater. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I was a Croc hater. And then I stumbled across some red Crocs, and I was like, I need to walk outside right now. I was like, I'm gonna give these things a shot, and it's been a problem ever since. But the problem is they're red. The only other person I've ever seen with red Crocs was my buddy Jan in Sweden. I walked in, I saw them in his at his house. I was like, I thought I was the only person who wore red Crocs. So there's that. What are you looking for? It's all good. We're good.
Yeah.
So let's get back into the grids. So your black grid is going to be your traditional grid. What it does is it absorbs. Black absorbs, white reflects. So your black grid is going to keep the light focused right where you want. That's the point of the grid. Like you're looking at me right now through this. If I turn it ever so subtly, I disappear. The light does the exact same thing. Because that helps keep the light focused, and the black is absorbing, the light's really, really pointed, and you see a contrast increase. Again, it's something that makes people think that grids make light harder. They don't make light harder. It's the same size modifier. What it does is it increases contrast. Therefore, people perceive that as a hardness increase, but it's not. Now, a white grid in a field with no reflections anywhere does the exact same thing that a black grid does. It's the same size modifier, same softness or hardness, depending on how you want to talk about it. So same light quality. If I turn it ever so slightly, I disappear again. So that light is being pointed right at your subject. In a field, these look the exact same. There's no difference. Where this is different is in a place like this, in a studio, where we have walls, especially in here where we have white walls, we're going to be shooting on a white background. What this allows for now is instead of absorption, you have the reflection. So you're getting, again, micro reflections off of the inside of the grid, shooting in different directions, bouncing off the walls, bouncing off the ceiling, bouncing off the floor, giving you a contrast decrease as opposed to the contrast increase of a black grid. These might be a little more appetizing to someone who is new to the hard light world or new to grid using, because again, it's going to allow for contrast to decrease, not increase. So, very, very cool stuff. Now that we are no longer distorted, we have the rundown on stuff. Caitlin's standing there. She's still looking for things. She's going wild today. We're gonna take some photos. You ready to rock and roll, Kate?
Let's do this.
Let's do this. She's on like extreme microphone hunt.
No. Let's see if I can replace your mic.
No, my mic doesn't need to be replaced. It's totally fine.
Okay. All right, friends.
Cool. We're going here to the wide. Cool.
Yep.
So what we're gonna do, and I know that people are gonna ask for a comparison. Generally, whenever we do these lives, we go. Let's get rid of all this stuff first. Generally, when we do these lives, I tend to focus on the main thing that we're talking about, the white reflectors, and it always comes up that people want to see a comparison, and rightfully so. I know it makes sense to want to see them. So I just pulled everything out, and we're just going to shoot a whole bunch for a minute and just see what things look like. So again, lighting-wise, just so you can kind of see what we were talking about too with the effect with a flat front light, I want to use that with the silver and with the white reflectors. We're going to be using the D3 today because I can really, really crank the continuous light up on the front of this thing so we can see what we're pointing at. And we're going to be paying attention to a lot of things. We're going to be paying attention to how the light falls on Kate. We're going to be paying attention to how the contrast increases or decreases. We're going to be paying attention to the background, lots of stuff. We're going to be looking for lots of things. Let's start small. Let's go with the zoom reflector. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out where we want to photograph really fast. Let's get this camera set. We have to move things around so there's not cameras in front of cameras whenever we're starting this thing. So we're a little, maybe a hair off kilter for a moment. Stand by. Let's get camera level. Beautiful. Cool. I'm going to back it into this thing a little bit. Perfect. So come to your right over there. Fantastic. Facing that direction. All right, cool. So you're going to kind of look back over your shoulder?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's get a reflector on here, and then we can see how this light's going to fall. I'm going to, let's just kind of keep everything at 6, like a zoom position of 6 for anyone wondering. I'm looking at the zoom scale here on the side of the D2. We're locked in at a position of 6. That way we can just kind of keep things pretty similar. Let's go upsies. Power up. The new model light on these D3s is so awesome. Cool. I'm trying to, you know what? I have this backed up quite a bit, but I really feel like we're going to see it more in the closeness. Let's go a little closer. I think that's going to be kind of where some of this thing starts to shine. So what's going to happen now is, and I hope you get, yeah, you can see everything. So we're getting the vignette there from where the light's cutting off. We're going to see what happens when we photograph and see if those micro reflections mitigate that some. Put it down a little bit. We're going to do TTL. 3, 2, 1. Oh. Oh, we're not on the right channel. I'm still set on a channel from when I was in Stockholm. Let's fix that now. Go 3, 2. Let's fix this too. Kate. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. You know what? I think since you're facing that way, I think we should photograph into you.
You can rotate. I have to face this direction.
It's fine. Roll the way that you want to. We're going to stay there. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful, beautiful light quality. It's got some nice punch to it. It's nice. It's hard, but it's got some the light points. You can obviously see. Hold on a second. See if I can get more of that edge of that vignette in the shot here. Let's do this. I'm gonna shoot the light just past her because I want to see how much of that line we can see. Beautiful. So you can see that vignette starts to creep into the corner of that shot in the top right. So now let's see what happens when we switch the silver reflector, but we're also going to pay attention to the power output. So right now, 4.8 is our power output with the silver reflector. Again, the silver is going to be more efficient, so it's not going to consume as much power to expose the shot. Now, let's get this white reflector on here. Position of 6, like we did earlier. Lock it down. And let's see how we are reflecting. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. So just out of the gate, the vignette in the top right corner has dropped radically. Power level wise from 4.8, we jumped up to 5. So we actually, efficiency wise, didn't really lose much, which is kind of awesome. So we're still, there's a slight efficiency loss, but like I was saying, these reflectors, even though they are white, they do gather light in a way that maintains some of that extra output you would normally get from our hard reflectors. So I can't do the black grids with the small reflector. I'm almost positive I don't have any. So we're going to do all the grid work with the Magnum, which we will pull up now. Let's do the Magnum. Let's see how we're doing with the Magnum.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, ask any questions while we're doing this. All right, Magnum reflector. One of the things that you...
They said that the quality of it's better if they have headphones in.
Oh, gotcha. So maybe it's the speakers on their computers. I don't know. It's again. I do think that we were clipping. So
Definitely was happening because we tried to. Yeah. Anyways, but let's see. We have any tips on color temperature when using these modifiers?
Color temperature should maintain the color temperature of the lights. So when they test all the finishes and stuff like that, and they're testing the modifiers, they try to make sure that the colors that we use on the inside, it's the same thing for the insides of soft boxes. So we go through and we try to test these things and make sure that even over time, the color, heat, and other things that are close to the modifiers don't change the color temperature. That being said, let's see. Just shot silver. Between the silver and white, granted, this could also be my, it also could be my auto white balance, managing the white balance, but we try to maintain color accuracy with both our modifiers and our lights. So, long-winded way of saying, we always check that stuff before we make something and send it out. So, cool. So now let's go to Magnum. So the Magnum, really, really intense. You can ever so slightly see it because it's kind of intense overall, but there's a massive hot spot right there. Like Weather Girl style right here. Big hot spot. So now let's see what happens with the Magnum, power-wise, look-wise, and everything else. Ready, Kate?
Let's do it.
Cool. Real punchy. There's some things that we're going to talk about too whenever I pull the camera up, the photos up here in just a moment, to show you some other reasons why the flat front lights aren't as good with the traditional reflectors, and we'll talk about that. So power level wise, we dropped down to 3.7 with the Magnum. So we're already a full stop lower than we were with the zoom reflector. So again, the cool thing is we're maintaining a lot of that. Well, I mean, this is the traditional Magnum, which has always maintained tons of power output. But let's see what the difference is now. So we're at 3.7 on the silver Magnum. Let's see what happens with the white Magnum. So one of the things that happens with the silver reflectors, back on there. One of the things that happens with the silver reflectors on the flat front lights is they tend to make a second shadow. It just has to do again with kind of those micro reflections inside of the modifier. So the white should reduce some of that. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Very lovely, much more subtle. I'm gonna show you before and after really fast. So that's the silver, that's the white magnum. Still a beautiful light, definitely more coverage in the exact same zoom position. So there's the silver, there's the white. Power output wise, so we're down to 3.7 on the power with the silver magnum. With the white magnum, there's a bigger difference between the outputs with the silver and the white. So again, the silver was at 3.7. We're now to 5.2. So well over a stop and a half difference. Actually, exactly a stop and a half difference between the power output with the silver and the white. Cool. So now, let's do the telezoom. Let's see how the telezoom performs. And we'll pull all these up and we'll look at them kind of big and we'll kind of analyze everything and show you what we're talking about. So again, we're starting with the silver. Keeping in that zoom position, roughly 6. I've chose the 6 because that gets the bell of the modifier. So this portion right here where it starts to bell out, it gets that even with the front of the flat front light. So that's why I've chosen the position 6. So that's why we are where we are. So cool. Let's
do something at this nature.
Yeah. I'm going to kick this hotspot up on Kate's eyes a little more. I'll 3, 2, 1 you, then you can open your eyes. I know that's not. I know it's a little spicy. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful light. Telezoom just has this really pointed, really like, it's kind of a glamorous look to it. I really like it. So now let's just see. I think we're going to see some big differences just in the way the light falls with the telezoom. But you can see how some of these light shaping tools can be a hair intimidating for someone who sees this and they're like, man, that thing got so contrasty. I mean, Kate can probably tell you right now the difference in the hot spot between the two.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very good. Oh, double check the power before I lose it. So power level of 3. So the telezoom was more efficient. Yeah, it's more efficient than the Magnum on the D3. So here, 3, 2, 1. Way bigger difference with the white interior. So with that being said, I'm gonna throw the Magnum back on. Let's do some grid shots, and then let's talk about it. So I'm gonna do the grid I'm gonna do the black grid and the white grid with the white finish Magnum. Should I do it both?
Mm-hmm. You should.
Okay, I'm gonna do it both just in case someone's gonna ask. Someone will ask. They'll ask. We should do it. I want to make sure that we are providing you everything you need to make informed decisions about your reflector acquisition. Let's see. Cool. So we're going silver reflector. This is the silver Magnum. Black grid. Let's see what we're doing. Again, we're going to keep it at that 6. For anyone just tuning in, why I'm keeping it roughly that 6 setting is because, again, that's where the bell is. Ready, Kate?
Mm-hmm.
So this I'm going to need to make sure I point right at her face, so because the grid is going to. Yeah, there we go. That looks nice. And this should cut down on the light pretty heavily. 3, 2, 1. Pretty pointed. Actually, I'm going to compensate that down here because 3, 2. There we go. That was just a little angry. I'm gonna go so I don't. There we go. Just want to make sure that because one of the things that can tend to happen while I'm shooting a lot of this stuff is I can get lost in the sauce and I forget what images did what. So, silver Magnum white grid. Ooh, that's
Woo! Good catch.
baseball. So
Right.
all those years in center field. You know what? This might be better if I do this down. Easier to use gravity in my favor as opposed to against it. There we go. White grid. Same position. Okay. All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I can tell. Let's pull that back again. Here we go. 3.
Hold on.
3, 2, 1. It's. I want to say it one more time. It is better. 3, 2. Cool. Just trying to. It's kind of way more overexposed than I wanted. Trying to make sure that it's right. There we go. So that's nice. So now let's do this with the white reflector. One of the things I think, and we'll talk about this some more here in just a moment when we get into the actual images, something I was noticing with the silver reflector and the white grid. I think a lot of it too is going to be the fact that the modifier is heavily pointed, it's heavily focused, and so even with the white grid, it's not quite as subtle. I think we're going to see that difference change here with the white reflector. You all right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, get that focus on her. Perfect. 3. Let's fix that. Here, 2, 1. One more time. I want to see. I feel like the grid's just bumping the contrast up, and the whole scene's trying to overdo it a little bit. 3, 2, 1. Much happier. Cool. Now this is where I think we're really going to see some cool stuff. I did that right next to the microphone. I apologize, everybody. That was a big bell. I do also like the white reflectors have two kind of rubber clamps inside of them as opposed to 3. I don't necessarily love having to fight with that third clamp. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Perfect. Let's pull my laptop out here and let's chitty chat about reflectors. My 400-mile long tether cable. I would love. I'm sure there's something out there, but I would love a like rock solid wireless tether. Cool. We're here. We're in the.
Yes, I will adjust something in just a moment, but let's go ahead and cut you there.
Cool. So let's go through each one of these reflectors side by side and see how things change. So the first thing with the, now I will say it looks like with the white reflector and the zoom, make sure I'm selecting the right things. Sure, I think that's the same. It's this one. Yeah, that's right, because I angled it a little more. That now I know where we're at. We're good. We're back in business now. So here's where I wanted to show you this thing first. The double shadow that you generally get from the traditional silver reflectors with your flat front lights. So if you look here, so you have the shadow of Kate, and then you have kind of this line of demarcation right here, this little bit of a feathered look right here. But what happens here is there's a secondary shadow. it happens, and you know that it's not an anomaly because it follows Kate's body line all the way around. Secondary shadow. That's something that the silver reflectors just inherently do with the flat front lights. It's, again, why it's better for the protruded front lights, but also the zoom angles were built on, again, that protruded headlight. It doesn't stop the reflector from working with the flat front lights. It just looks a little bit different than what you're expecting. The white reflector, on the other hand, does not have that second shadow. Or if it does, it's all the white interior of that reflector helps the light be so much more subtle that you don't detect it as much if it's there. I'm trying to see if it is actually there, or if that's more of a kind of like an anomaly in my paper. I think it's an anomaly in my paper. But again, you have that line of demarcation, that kind of subtle feather right there, but I don't see a second shadow. Now, where are some of the things that we were talking about earlier? So I kept the light in the same position. Look at the fall off here, that kind of gradiated fall off from the edge of the beam of the silver reflector, and how much more subtle it is here. Oh, sorry about that. How much more subtle it is here at the top right corner with the white reflector. Now, the silver, if you look here at the cheek, has a little bit more punch. So this is that sparkle that I was kind of talking about. Now, the highlight is relatively similar. It's a little less subtle here on this highlight, but this is that sparkle, this is that punch or the crispness that you'll hear people talking about with a silver reflector. That you kind of look at here, and that same sparkle, that's what we're talking about when we're saying the silver reflector has kind of that crispy characteristic to it. Those are the kind of all the words that get thrown around for kind of this sparkle. I think sparkle is probably one of the better words for it. Again, the white has a little bit of that, but it's way more subtle, all the way up here through the cheekbone, like we are with the silver. We have a lot more of that, quote unquote, sparkle. The white just seems to smooth out a little bit. So again, this might be another place too where the white reflector is going to make a big difference if you're photographing someone maybe with a little more oily skin. We talked about this a little bit with the. We talked about this a little bit more with the. Hang on a second. We talked about this with the guitar shot, where the way the light reflects back matters. So the white finish is going to give more of a diffused light hitting the subject and reflect back a little more diffused. So that's really, really good there. Let's zoom back into this. Look at one more thing just to make sure we haven't missed anything. It does not do anything for the torn edge of my seamless paper. That just is what it is. I need to cut my seamless paper. As far as full body coverage goes, they look pretty similar. Even down here towards the foot and the shoe, I think the lightness here on the shoe has more to do with the fact that the foot is angled more towards the light, whereas this is kind of kicked back a little bit more. All in all, coverage-wise, spread-wise, they're pretty similar, but yeah, the silver just has that punch to it. So let's go over to the Magnum. I think as we start getting into these reflectors, we're really going to see some differences. So the Magnum just in and of itself, like I was saying when I pointed at that hot spot, it has a really focused light beam. It's one of the things that gives it the ability to give you, up to 2 stops more light output with your light. So now again, if I was to zoom in a little bit more in or zoom in a little bit more out, we probably would have knocked down that hot spot and not quite had the output. But I was trying to keep everything consistent, and where it was is where it gathers the most light. So, but what you can see here is it's very focused, right? As a matter of fact, I probably have the light pointed down maybe a hair too much. She's kind of down here around her chest area. But that being said, you can see it then gets out quite a bit. It falls off quite a bit down here to the leg. If you look here at the ankle with the white reflector versus the silver, we're getting some more secondary reflections and some more light spread here. That's giving us some more light down in this direction. Now if we zoom into the face, let's see what we have here. So again, still some of that kind of sparkle right here on that cheek that we were talking about from the silver. We're going to see that with all of them. That's just, again, the inherent properties of shooting somebody with a silver modifier. So whether it be a hard reflector, a silver umbrella, that sparkle is going to happen because of that reflection off of that silver material. Now though, if we look at the face, way less contrast on a lot of things. So like back here, back towards the back of the cheekbone, you can see that we have some more secondary reflections here from things bouncing around a little more, so it's not quite as contrasting. Really, really cool stuff. Again, there's that second that second shadow with the hard reflectors, it's kind of right here. It's honestly the second shadow on the Magnum's a little more subtle, but it does exist right there. And then we get into the main shadow with a little more, with some more kind of light leaks. I don't know if light leaks is the word, but there's definitely some reflected light making it around here to where we have kind of some highlights in this feathered portion of the shadow. Whereas here, when you go to the white reflector, you don't quite have such dramatic light spill into the reflector from, again, secondary reflections. Really, really nice stuff. Again, way more coverage with the white reflector. Now, to the telezoom. This one is going to be the most dramatic difference between the two. So, with this telezoom, you can see how much light is focused right at the subject, or whatever you're pointing the light at, right? So we have this real dramatic fall off. It goes almost pitch black. We can see the silhouette of her feet just from the light reflecting off the background. But this thing is really, I mean, I don't have to point this out, but this is really just all about midway Kate and up, right? We have that secondary shadow here again. So the main shadow and then the feather, like that line of demarcation right there. And then we have that second shadow right there, again, that you're going to get with a flat front light with a silver reflector. But still, it's still a beautiful quality of light. It's undeniable. Now, when you come over here, we still have some of that vignetting. That is the edge of the reflector. It's a deep reflector. So if you look here, for example, it's a deep reflector. So the light's having to try to get out of here. It's bouncing all around, and it's going to meet this edge. So that edge is still apparent, but because there's secondary reflections, I think the moral of this live is just secondary reflections. Because there are secondary reflections and there's a lot more light bouncing around, you're getting that decreasing contrast that I was promising you that you get from a white reflector. Again, we have that a longer line of demarcation in this feather right here with the shadow, but we don't have that second shadow going all around everything. Clearly more coverage, bigger decrease in contrast. That's what the white reflectors do. Now, let's dive into the grids. So this is the silver Magnum, black grid, white grid. Huge difference? No, but is there a difference? Yes. So again, because that silver is so pointed, again, in the position that we have the Magnum, we're getting kind of maximum hot spot located on the subject. That's why I kind of readjusted it slightly to make sure it was hitting her face so it wouldn't shoot past her with the grids on. But you can see how quickly that light just falls off. It spots onto the background. You can see here that even compared to, like, let's pull this up just for funsies. Even with the telezoom, like, you can see how much faster that light just is gone. Like, even the silhouette here of the feet just doesn't exist as opposed to when the telezoom was on there, even being as pointed as it is. But then you go to the white grid, and then it's still pointed. Again, the light softness or hardness is the exact same. The quality is the exact same. But what's happening is because the light can bounce around inside the grid a little bit more, you're getting a touch more spread. So even if you just come down here and look at that kind of like the silhouette of the feet down low, you're getting some light bouncing back off the background because it's covering more space back here. The shadow goes from kind of cutting through where her head is to feathering way more subtly, but the dark spot being past where her, the shape of her head is. So really, really cool stuff. And then once we get into the white reflector, the white Magnum, you can start to see some more differences there too. So again, with the whites, we're getting the same hardness on both lights, but that grid with the black is keeping the reflections down, pointing the light right at Kate. Again, even with the white reflector, we start to kind of lose that silhouette where the feet are. And then as the white grid comes in here with the white reflector, so you have all that extra reflection, no hot spots, we're getting way more feathered edges. You can see that this gradient is it's not subtle, but it's longer. So it definitely gets darker up here at the top, and we have a lot more coverage. So again, it's a lot of it. It's a lot of talking about shadows and stuff like that. But that's what. Oh, make sure I don't run over my grid and destroy it. Get this out of the way. But that's really what this is all about. It's about having a modifier that is going to give you a different look to what it is that you're trying to achieve, or another tool in your arsenal. Again, just in looking at the difference between the specularity, that kind of crispness on the face, having that white reflector on there, in case you run into somebody who may have some oily skin, or maybe things just don't jive as well, that's a great option there as well. Especially maybe you don't have a makeup artist or something like that, and you can't really you're having a hard time overcoming that, even with like, you know, matting powders and stuff like that. I said that right? Matting powders?
Powder.
Powder.
It's good. You got it.
I don't think she likes what I'm saying. So you have a light shaping tool in your arsenal that can also help with that kind of stuff. If you're just getting into hard reflectors, these things are really, really cool too, because the subtleness of the reflector allows for you to be a little less fine with your positioning of the reflector, whereas the silver stuff is, I mean, again, even with something as simple as the magnet, right? This thing can throw a hot spot like crazy. And if you don't nail that hot spot, if you're in a situation where maybe you can't overcome what things look like with the modeling light or something like that, and you throw that light past the subject, it may not be what it is that you're looking for. You may light the wrong part of the subject. I mean, you saw there that I missed by just, you know, like a degree or two, and it kind of lit more here than it did here. So the upside for the white, a little more forgiving and stuff like that. Any questions?
Yeah. Let's see. So people are interested in seeing it with the Pro Head. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty good. People are interested. People are.
Yeah, it's a great. And again, we could do this with the Pro Head. We'll see a little bit difference in the actual light throw with the silver reflectors. With the white reflectors, not as much. I feel like we made a light sheet. I'll have to find it and see if it's something I can share, but I feel like we made something that shows the differences with the Pro Head and with the flat front light. I'll ask Connell, because I actually think he's the one who made it. But it's really compelling stuff. Really, really cool. Anything else?
That's it.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you all coming and hanging out with us, having a good time, talking lighting and all that good stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can DM me. I'm at dchrismain on Instagram. If you send me a message and it gets caught in like request land, just ping me again, and I'll get there. Sometimes I'm a day or two behind. Sometimes I messaged somebody the other day that got caught in my Facebook request like a month ago and I felt terrible. So, but I will get to you. I promise I will. But again, ping me if you need to. Other than that, you can always reach out to us on the official Facebook page, on Instagram, or you can email us at Profoto. But hit us up anytime if you have any questions. We're more than happy to talk about it. If there's anything you'd like to see, anything that you'd like to see us cover, any subjects, any kind of show you some ways of light and stuff, let us know. Again, you can DM me that stuff as well. In the meantime, I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. See you next time on Geared Up. Peace out, everybody. You can come in, Lily.
Was it plugged in the wrong hole?
There's only one hole.
Okay. Had to have been YouTube then.
You can come in.
You can't. 'Cause
Oh, you can't, Caitlin.